In the quiet of a German prison cell, a man dreams of rivers. Hermann Hesse sits behind bars, a conscientious objector to the Great War, and in his solitude he births a wanderer who will outlive empires. The river is everywhere at the same time, at the source and at the mouth, at the waterfall, at the ferry, at the current, in the ocean and in the mountains. Everywhere, and the present in it is only now. The year is 1922. Europe bleeds from wounds that refuse to heal. Cities rebuild themselves brick by brick, while souls search for meaning in the rubble. In this landscape of spiritual hunger, Hesse offers not answers, but a question that cuts to the bone. What does it mean to truly live? A young Brahmin's son stands at the threshold of everything he has ever known. His father's rituals, his mother's prayers, the sacred texts that have guided generations. All of it feels like borrowed clothing that no longer fits. The morning light catches the dissatisfaction in his eyes, a fire that will consume everything familiar. This is the geography of awakening, not a place, but a condition. Siddhartha carries within him the restlessness of an entire generation, those who survived the war only to find that survival itself is not enough. The old gods have grown silent, and the new ones demand too much blood. Hesse knows this territory intimately. Born to missionary parents, raised in the shadow of Christian certainty, he has felt the walls of inherited faith crumble beneath the weight of lived experience. His own spiritual crisis becomes the raw material from which he sculpts his masterpiece. The river runs through everything, through the story, through the century, through the human heart that refuses to be satisfied with easy answers. It carries away the debris of broken beliefs while promising nothing but its own eternal movement. In its current, east meets west, ancient wisdom flows into modern despair. Watch how Siddhartha leaves his father's house not in anger, but in necessity. His departure is an act of love, love for a truth he cannot yet name, love for a life he cannot yet imagine. The door closes behind him with the soft finality of a prayer ending. The Buddha appears in these pages not as a deity, but as a man who has found something. His followers gather like moths around a flame, seeking warmth in his enlightenment. But Siddhartha sees the danger in this borrowed light, the way it can blind as easily as illuminate. Here is the paradox that haunts every seeker. The teaching that transforms you is not the teaching that will transform another. The Buddha's wisdom is perfect and useless, like a map of a country that changes with each traveller's footstep. Siddhartha must find his own way through the wilderness of becoming. The forest swallows him whole. Here, among the ascetics, he learns the grammar of deprivation. His body becomes a stranger, his hunger a teacher, his thirst a prayer. For 3 years he practices the art of becoming nothing, believing that emptiness might reveal what fullness has hidden. But the flesh has its own wisdom, its own stubborn insistence on existence. The body that he has denied begins to speak in a language older than scripture, older than thought. It tells him that the path to enlightenment cannot be built on the bones of the self. In the moment of abandonment, when he leaves the forest and its skeletal teachers, Siddhartha touches something profound, the recognition that every path, including the path of renunciation, can become a prison. Freedom lies not in following or rejecting, but in the courage to choose moment by moment how to live. The city opens its arms to receive him, a world of silk and wine and flesh made warm by desire. Here is the opposite lesson, the counterpoint to asceticism, the full embrace of the material world, the diving deep into pleasure until it too reveals its limitations. Kamala becomes his teacher in the University of the Senses. Her body is a text he learns to read, her pleasure a language he learns to speak. Through her, he discovers that love and lust are not opposites but different notes in the same song, each capable of leading toward or away from truth. The merchant's life fits him like a tailored coat. Kamaswami, with his ledgers and his calculating eyes, shows him how to transform desire into profit, how to build an empire from the understanding of what others lack. For years, Siddhartha plays this game with the precision of a master. But success, like failure, is a teacher that eventually exhausts its curriculum. The gold accumulates, the pleasure multiplies, and yet something essential remains untouched. The river of his spirit runs underground, beneath the foundations of his merchant's palace, waiting for the moment when the earth will crack and reveal its hidden course. The dice fall like fate itself, each roll a small death, each loss a liberation. In the gambling house, Siddhartha learns his final lesson about the world of forms, that attachment to any outcome, even the attachment to losing, is a chain that binds the soul to suffering. The ferryman Om is already waiting by the river when Siddhartha arrives, as if their meeting has been written in the water itself. Om's face carries the peace of someone who has stopped fighting the current, who has learned to move with the eternal flow rather than against it. In the simple act of carrying passengers across the water, Siddhartha discovers the deepest teaching, that service to others is not a duty imposed from without, but a natural expression of understanding. The river teaches through him, and he learns through the river. The son arrives like a storm, angry, wounded, carrying the weight of his mother's death and his father's absence. In the boy's eyes, Siddhartha sees his own young face, the same fire of discontent, the same hunger for a different world. Love reveals itself as the most dangerous attachment of all. The child's rejection cuts deeper than any ascetic's blade. He leaves as Siddhartha himself once left, carrying forward the ancient pattern of departure and return, seeking and finding, losing and discovering. The river accepts this offering of pain with the same indifference it shows to joy. In the space left by his son's absence, Siddhartha finally hears what the river has been trying to tell him all along, that every voice it carries, the crying child, the laughing woman, the dying man, is his own voice, the voice of the eternal self that moves through all forms and remains unchanged. The synchronicity of Om's death and Siddhartha's understanding is not coincidence, but the recognition of a pattern that has always existed. The teacher disappears when the teaching is complete, not because the relationship ends, but because it has been fulfilled. Govinda arrives like a memory made flesh, still carrying the burden of his seeking, still hoping that someone else's enlightenment might illuminate his own darkness. In his old friend's face, Siddhartha sees the beautiful futility of all spiritual striving. The kiss that passes between them is not romance but recognition, the moment when teacher and student dissolve into the single truth that was always present. Govinda's vision reveals what has been hidden in plain sight, that the sacred and the ordinary share the same face. Hesse writes from the ruins of everything he once believed certain. The war has ended, but the questions it raised about human nature, about the possibility of goodness, about the meaning of existence in a world capable of such destruction, these questions burn through everything he creates. The influence of Eastern philosophy on Western literature finds its perfect expression in Siddhartha's journey. Hesse becomes a bridge between worlds, translating the concepts of karma and dharma into a language that speaks to European souls hungry for wisdom that transcends the boundaries of their own tradition. In the 1960s, a new generation discovers Hesse's River Wanderer and recognizes their own reflection. The book becomes a passport to inner exploration, a map for those who have inherited prosperity but not purpose, comfort but not meaning. The counterculture claims Siddhartha as one of their own. The persistence of the book's appeal across decades and cultures suggests something deeper than fashion. It speaks to the universal human experience of dissatisfaction with inherited answers, the need to find one's own way to wisdom, the recognition that the path itself is the destination. Contemporary readers find in Siddhartha a response to the spiritual emptiness of consumer culture, the hollowness of lives built on external achievements. The merchant's son, who discovers that success is not salvation, speaks directly to the modern condition of having everything and feeling nothing. The environmental movement sees in the river's wisdom a teaching about humanity's relationship with the natural world, the water that connects all things, that carries away all waste while remaining pure, becomes a symbol of the ecological thinking that our survival demands. Psychologists recognize in Siddhartha's journey the archetypal pattern of individuation, the process by which the self discovers its own authentic nature. Jung himself corresponded with Hesse, recognizing in the novelist a kindred explorer of the unconscious realms. The book's critique of organized religion resonates in an age of religious pluralism and personal spirituality. Siddhartha's rejection of the Buddha's teaching speaks to those who seek direct experience over received doctrine, who trust their own inner voice over external authority. In the digital age, where information flows like water but wisdom remains scarce, Siddhartha's patient apprenticeship to the river offers a different model of learning. The slow accumulation of understanding through lived experience becomes a counterpoint to the instant gratification of virtual reality. The globalization of culture creates new forms of spiritual seeking, new opportunities for the kind of cross-pollination between traditions that Hesse pioneered. His synthesis of Eastern and Western wisdom becomes a template for the hybrid spiritualities of the contemporary world. Educators find in the book a teaching about teaching itself, the recognition that true wisdom cannot be transmitted but must be discovered, that the role of the teacher is not to provide answers but to create conditions in which students can find their own truth. The book's treatment of time, the river's eternal present that contains all moments, speaks to our contemporary understanding of consciousness, memory, and the constructed nature of temporal experience. Siddhartha's final vision anticipates insights that neuroscience is only beginning to articulate. In a world increasingly divided by ideological certainties, Siddhartha's willingness to embrace contradictions, to find truth in paradox, to accept that multiple perspectives can coexist, offers a model for navigating complexity without retreating into fundamentalism. The loneliness of the seeker, the courage required to leave the familiar, the faith needed to continue when the destination remains unclear, these themes speak to anyone who has ever felt called to a life different from the one they were born into. The river continues to flow, carrying new generations of readers into its current. Siddhartha's journey becomes their journey, his awakening a mirror for their own potential transformation. In the end, the book reveals its deepest secret, that the reader and the seeker are one, that the river runs through every human heart, and that the awakening we seek is not a destination, but the very ground we stand on, waiting patiently for us to remember who we have always been.